Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 1st March 2021, and these are the articles for the day. The first article for the day, The Unraveling of Liberal Globalism. Let me get into the brief context of this article. In 2016, when the President of United States, Donald Trump, has taken the power position, he has fundamentally altered the foreign policy of United States of America and stood against everything that America stood for. So he had America first as the bedrock of his foreign policy. What does this idea of America first means? Isn't it natural that every country puts their interest above global interests or any other interest? That is fundamentally true. However, the idea behind globalization and America's position with respect to globalization should be understood to uh, actually appreciate the impact of this America First policy. Now, if you are talking about a globalized world and how USA is closely linked to this idea of globalized world, you have to understand that USA has always stood for a democratic world order wherein meritocracy has been respected and appreciated. That is the reason why USA has been the destination for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and scientific thinkers and scientists across the world, because it encouraged and incentivized new thought and innovation. So this innovation has been the bedrock of global economy. If you take a look at the history as well, it is the change of technology which has propelled economic growth across the history. There is only so much that we can attain through a stagnant scientific development. Consider it an aspect of history as well, because history began with the invention of wheel and then progressed towards today what we know as artificial intelligence. Now, throughout history, the economic models have changed because of this technological change. In the present state of things, the impact of this technology is in such a way that natural resources, which are very essential for economic activity, we are in a state of transition. Our economy is in a state of transition across the world. We are moving towards technology and newer technologies like artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. So, since the focus has shifted from natural resources to AI, and not many countries in the world are equipped to handle this new technology, the fight for natural resources is still prevalent. Even in the American society, the quality of jobs is a big issue. The growing unemployment and the quality of jobs has always remained a contentious issue, even in the political sphere. It is using this disadvantage of the globalization, that is, it is not in a position to be inclusive because of bad policy implementation across the world. That can be the global trend. We cannot infer that globalization will lead to inequality. Globalization is just a starting point. It is up to the governments to ensure equitable growth happens. Unless and until the distribution patterns of whatever wealth we generate from this globalization or gaining access to global markets are spread evenly in a society, it will lead to inequality only. So we don't want a scenario where we are encouraging a few rich people at the cost of a huge population that is not growing proportionately. So eventually it will lead to discontentment, and this has been witnessed in the quality of life in the United States and the stagnation in the post global financial crisis that we have seen in the 2008. uh, the decade after that has always been problematic because of slowing economic growth and the rise of China. This is exactly the context in which he assumed power. He created a scenario where the local American white population felt that the immigrants were taking away their jobs. So he created a phenomenon which clearly divided the entire country into two equal opposing halves. That is the reason why we have witnessed such ugly scenes when the power transition was happening in the United States recently. So we have never seen scenes like that. But even though Donald Trump has been defeated, this phenomenon is going to stay, and it is currently witnessed across the entire globe. Wherever there is inequitable distribution of wealth, we will see this trend of divisive politics. To give credit to Donald Trump's era as a president of the United States, the good thing that came out of his tenure was the normalization agreements between Arab countries and Israel. Historically, Israel and Arab countries have been at war because of the Palestine issue and because of Arab nationalism. Having peace in this area has always been the prerequisite for any sort of a stable world order, and at the same time ensure that this area, which has a lot of natural resources and energy resources like oil, is not a zone of conflict. So moving away from that trend, Israel has actually signed normalization agreements, or what we know as Abraham Accord, with UAE, other countries like Sudan, etc. And it has taken forward the relationship which began with a signing of normalization agreements with Egypt in 1994. For what exactly is this normalization agreement? It is an agreement between Israel and Arab countries recognizing Israel's stature as a country. At the same time, we also have to take care that we do not celebrate the end of the presidential era of Trump. He has certain important lessons to tell the world. Every time when we speak about liberalism, we talk about rule of law within the nations and within the countries. We have to understand that it is not exactly the idea of liberalism that needs to be supported, but it is the impact that it will have on all the sections of the society. It is a clear fact that inequality has risen in the world. The rich were getting richer and the poor were getting poorer. And this can also be accentuated statistically if you take a look at Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient is the measure of inequality in a country. Gini coefficient of US is much higher than that of India, and if you have to compare it with the best, like say Scandinavian countries, it is not even close. So this shows that wherever there is inequality, this idea of liberalism will just stay on paper. Yes, there is definitely rule of law, there is definitely free market, the rights are indeed celebrated in the US. But at the same time, if you have to focus on the quality of life, there is a significant chunk of population where they don't have a proper life. They struggle to meet their ends, and the quality of wage growth in that economy is not conducive for a happy life. In such a situation, definitely this liberal principles are just namesake and they do not actually reflect the state of the society. A significant chunk of the population, if they are just making their ends meet, definitely we are not saying that the poor in America are as poor as the people in South Asia or the people in Africa. You cannot compare poverty there. But poverty as such is a very relative idea. You have to understand this. The poor person will always not compare himself or herself with the poor in African countries or say South Asian countries. He will always compare himself with the people of the society in which he is a part of. So if he feels that idea of relative deprivation, it will lead to this kind of ideas. So in order to really celebrate the principles of liberalism, you need to go much beyond just namesake lip service based attitudes and ensure that social welfare is indeed the outcome of a liberal economy. Rule of law, free market, and everything should actually lead to a better life of individuals of a society. You cannot compare the poor people of a society with another set of poor people in a different society. It is all relative. Otherwise, these kind of reactions, where you see in the post Cold War era, the rise of nationalism after the global financial crisis and the growth of patriotic attitudes to ensure that protectionism and isolationism is celebrated is because of this fear that is created within a society. So this economic model and economic principles have something to do with a particular society rather than the entire idea of globalization. So let us not confuse that idea with globalization. So that is the gist of this article. The second article for the day is what is 5G and how India is ready to adapt this technology, or whether it is ready to adapt this technology. Now, if we have to use a simple analogy, let's take a car, and the engine to drive this is equally important. At the same time, the fuel is important. Now, in the present case, if we are going to consider the future of our economy, then a digital economy is the car that we are talking about in our analogy. And the engine for this is the ability of manpower to leverage the technological changes, the skill, and then investments. But before that, the fuel is infrastructure. Now, the infrastructure needed for that will be 5G technology. So, what is this 5G technology? So, 5G is the latest upgrade in mobile data. With the growth of 5G network in our country, we will have better infrastructure that is required for a digital economy. So, this is the most basic aspect of a digital economy. Without high speed internets, we cannot have reliable internet, and therefore we cannot satisfactorily say that we are moving towards a digital economy. Considering this fact, the government has given emphasis on the fifth generation, that is what 5G stands for, upgrade of long term evolution broadband network. This is what you have to understand, LTE. This is nothing but the network that you currently use on your mobile phones. 4G technology is the current version. It is much faster than the 3G technology and definitely 100 times faster than the second generation LTE. So, this is the basic understanding of what the fifth generation LTE stands for. Now, what is the implication of this? We have to understand here that 5G comes in three bands. So the lower band will have a wider coverage. So we have certain areas in our rural India where we don't require high speed internet. We require that high speed internet only in areas which are significantly consuming data. But in these areas which are either too unconnected by our normal technology, 5G can play a significant role in these areas. Then we have the mid band or the mid level usage, where in certain suburban parts of the country which is required for normal home usage, this band of 5G can be used to cover such areas as suburban areas with a medium level usage of internet. But when we are talking about metros and high speed demanding environments like the corporate sector, etc., this high speed internet will also be served in 5G technology. This band will serve to urban areas and IT tele corridors. So this technology is going to change the face of almost every other sector. This is like the fuel, and combining that with certain tools like data analytics and 5G together will change the face of the Indian economy, and not just Indian economy, across the world itself. The economy is moving towards what is now known as the Industrial Revolution 4.0. So without adoption of technology like 5G, it would be very difficult to make this transition faster. So what are the impediments in making this transition? So the first thing is the recent AGR issue, the aggregate gross revenue issue of the telecoms. Recently, there was a case about how the telecom companies should have shared their revenue. This is a different issue which we have discussed in previous editorials. I will be dealing with this separately again in the prelims revision classes. But just understand that the telecom companies were directed by the Supreme Court to pay as much as 80,000 crores. So each company was made to pay a certain amount, and because of this, the three existing players, that is Airtel, the Vodafone Idea together as a platform, and Geo, all these companies were directed to pay a certain amount, but the quantum of money that was demanded from Airtel and Vodafone is a whopping thousands of crores, whereas for Geo it is much lesser, in the range of a few hundred crores. So because of this, there is a cash crunch in the economy with respect to the telecom sector. Because of this, only Geo is in a position to roll out a 5G network across the country in a short period of time. So we know the fact that unless and until there is competition, it will lead to a monopoly. Monopolies are never good for any sector. So it is generally advised by a lot of market analysts that we have to give a leeway to these companies so that they will be in a position to compete for this 5G spectrum and roll out their services as well. It is important to create a level playing field. And if you take a look at the global scenario, a lot of companies are coming up with their 5G networks. If you take the case of China, you have Huawei, which has been one of the controversial service provider, because Britain has recently stopped Huawei's operations in UK to an extent, and US has been alleging that China is using this company to spy on US citizens. So this data security is another dimension which makes us rethink about FDI and the kind of equipment that comes into our country. So we need to have a strategic autonomy, we need to have a data protection law along with this. So only then safe environment will be envisaged for the end user in a economy that is based on digital technology. So that is the takeaway that we have. We also have to understand that there are southern Asian economies, Southeast Asian economies to be precise, like say for example the South Korean companies like Samsung. They have been researching on 5G technology from almost 1 decade. So in this 1 decade, and with the pace of change of technology, we are slowly moving towards a era where high speed internet is going to be the norm rather than an exception. That is the gist of this article.